Hot Talk 560, KSFO.
Ethan Bearman joining you here on Hot Talk 560 KSFO. It's 34 minutes after 4 p.m., Saturday the 17th of May. So, did you even know that sheriffs are the most powerful law enforcement in the state of California? You probably don't even think about that when you vote. And most of the time, it's not even a contested, elected seat. It's an official. Sheriffs are super powerful in the state of California. They're an elected official. They're the chief law enforcement officer in any county. But guess what? They police unincorporated areas, but they are empowered in the state of California to basically enforce the law anywhere at any time. They're there to defend the federal constitution, the state constitution. They're the one that you look to. And I got to tell you, I'm excited for the residents of Santa Clara County, San Jose. You've had a sheriff for 16 years, Lori Smith, who basically hasn't ever had to run. And I'm going to tell you something. First off, her people never even responded. We reached out to her as well for an interview, and she hasn't even responded. And I'm going to tell you, there's a lot there to be concerned about. And I think that you have a real opportunity right now, and I'm going to be interviewing him here in just a moment. There is an opponent to your sitting sheriff. His name is Kevin Jensen. He's a retired sheriff's captain, 28 years in the department, and you have a real choice coming up here in just a couple of weeks. So right now I want to welcome Kevin Jensen to the show. Mr. Jensen, thanks for joining me.
Hey, I'm glad to be here, Ethan. Thank you.
So this is interesting. Oftentimes in California, the sheriff runs unopposed, but you're running against a sitting sheriff who's not stepping down, Lori Smith. Tell me what has driven you to get involved in a political campaign.
Well, I think it's watching what's happened. When I joined, I was 22 years old, and, I had some ideals, and I had a hope that I could get a job. I was working construction, and I was always hoping that I could get into law enforcement, but I just had a high school diploma, and this county gave me a shot when I was 22. So throughout my career, I had this, I think most people have this idea of what law enforcement's supposed to be. And unless you've been in it and you see behind the curtain sometimes, you don't really know. And, there's really good things and there's some bad things. And what I'm hoping to do is get rid of all the negative and turn it to the positive image that people have. And not just the image, but the actual substance. So for me, doing the job, watching what was going on, serving faithfully under a leader, and at times I've been asked for 8 years or more to run because things were going downhill. For me, I wanted to be loyal to the organization, loyal to the leader, but at some point you choose to be loyal to the mission before the leader. So that's what I did.
Now, Mr. Jensen, let me ask you this question. You're not an active deputy now. How long ago did you retire or step down?
It was very recent. It was October. Two things happened. My father became ill with cancer, and my choice was made that I would run for sheriff, and I knew that I couldn't do it on nights and weekends. People believe in me. They believe me not because I've been able to do anything spectacular magically, but I've always been fair, and so I want to bring that back to the sheriff's office and to the community. So when those two big events happened in my life where we made that decision and had to look at what was going on with my father, I go back there every 2 weeks to see him, and so at that point recently, I just decided that I would go full-time into this. And I'm glad you brought that up because some people think that I retire and then I go back and I get a second salary. That's not true. I would just go back and reinstate my PERS.
Oh, good. I'm glad that you clarified that because I had that was a question I had for you, actually. So you beat me to the punch on that one. Well, let me ask you this question. Sheriff is an elected official, and you report basically for budgetary reasons to the County Board of Supervisors. They approve the sheriff's budget.
Right.
What do you see as the biggest challenge in not, in doing the right thing? I mean, right, you take an oath to defend our Constitution. What do you see as the biggest challenge in terms of dealing with the Board of Supervisors to get the budget that you need, yet be able to do your job most effectively as the chief law enforcement official?
For for me over the years, as I rose through the ranks and I was the captain of the courts and the coroner and I was the assistant chief of the jails, I've dealt with the Board of Supervisors a lot. And by and large, great people. But I think what we haven't had sometimes is honest, good faith negotiations. And what I've watched from the inside is sometimes when we're preparing budgetary documents to take over, sometimes you try to hide some things, or at least the leadership did, and that's not good. If you really want good faith negotiations and you want the board to be sensitive to your needs, I think you have to have real heart-to-heart collaboration and say, look, here's where we're hurting, and be able to back it up. Don't hide a little pot of money over here or try to give them, the worst-case scenario when it's not true. What I bring to the table is I'm going to be real with them. I'm going to tell them these are the needs. I'm going to have empirical data to back it up, and I'm hoping that with the relationships that we have, they want the county to succeed. They're good people. But I think sometimes, when you have an autonomous sheriff, that's a good thing. And sometimes when you have an autonomous sheriff, that's a bad thing. So I'm going to try and bring the best of that so that the board and I can work strongly together to get those needs. And I think that they care. So I think that'll happen.
So you stepped down as a captain. Captain Jensen, I can call you, right?
You can call me Kevin.
Kevin, okay. Joining me right now on the phone, Kevin Jensen. He's running for Santa Clara County Sheriff, which, by the way, is one of the most powerful law enforcement positions in the state of California. A sheriff is able to do their job just about anywhere. Now, Kevin, a big situation has come about here in the state of California recently, and that was the Ninth Circuit decision regarding conceal and carry permits and weapons in the state of California. Where do you stand on this topic of the CCW?
Actually, there's more than one. There's Peruta, and then there's also Richards. There's the Hawaii case, and there's Skoka. So I've been doing a lot of homework on it. As the FBI National Academy Associates president of the chapter, California chapter, what I have is a good relationship with law enforcement chiefs all over the place and sheriffs. So I've been doing my homework on this. It looks like the Ninth Circuit, which many didn't think would go this way, that partial Ninth Circuit decision, those three members, in many cases now have said that good cause was maybe going to be removed as one of the criteria. There's the good moral character, good cause. And a lot of times what's happened, at least in our county, is it's very subjective what that means. And what we found in two Mercury News articles and others is that it seemed like the people that were getting the gun permits were very, very few. And when you looked at the information that was released, and not all of it was released, they were the highest donors to the campaign of the sheriff, the sitting sheriff. So that created a lot of scrutiny, and to me, that's where you have to say, here's what I do. I say, let's make it transparent. Let's make policy based on the law. Let's look at all of the stakeholders, all the people that really want to get in there and give their 2 cents on the issue. And I think that there's a lot of frustrated people that felt like, I don't even know what your policy is. I don't know how to apply. I don't know what the criteria is because it's all hidden. So for me, the first thing I do is I invite those people in, and I've already done that. I've talked to people all over the place to get their ideas, and then I've talked to some people that have been successful in other areas. Sacramento was just changed because they withdrew from that lawsuit because they were told they're going to be spending thousands and thousands of dollars on this. So they're going through a process right now where they're issuing, I believe, more, and they had to hire some more staff to do it. But the factors that I want to do that'll mean a lot to me is what is it's supposed to look like, put it on paper, let people see it, and get their input on how that's made. Of course, it's got to be by the law. Then what we do is we form good training. That's got to be the core. For those people that will receive gun permits, it's not so much about who can hit the target. That's important. To me, it's the cerebral part. It's the common sense part. I think all of us, whether you're Second Amendment, real fans of Second Amendment, which I think everybody should love the Constitution, or you're just people that are on the other side, everybody wants common sense that says, why should somebody have the ability to carry a gun? Is it for self-defense? Is it because they carry diamonds for a living? What's the reason? And
right.
then when you look at that, you say, okay, what's the most important part? What's the scary part? And I've been very honest about it. When I was a cop, I didn't want anyone else to have a gun. That scared me. Anyone else that had a gun was a threat to you and to me. But I've really watched now over the years that the people that I dealt with were primarily criminals. So I had one biased view of everybody I dealt with was a criminal. I'm chasing a guy with a MAC-10. That really happened.
Right.
I've got a guy holed up in a house, and he comes out, and I'm hiding behind a wall I thought was solid, and it turns out to be, that faux Rick. So I was at risk, and a friend of mine, was attacked with a high-powered .223 rifle and barely kept his life.
But let me kind of drill you down on this one for a second. So it's kind of heading toward a shall issue, right, as opposed to being a discretionary.
That's what it seems like. They're leaning that way. I don't know what the Ninth Circuit's going to do, but they're reviewing a bunch of cases, and the feds are even waiting to see what they're going to do to see what this law is going to look like. And it does look like they're going that way.
Okay, well, let's take one quick call here, and then we're going to have a little break. But I was hoping, Kevin, that you would stay with us.
Sure.
We have a lot of calls, a lot of questions, and I think this is a really important topic. Let's talk to Frank in San Jose. Did I get Frank? Frank in San Jose. You're on the air with
Hello.
Ethan Bearman. Hey, Frank.
Hello. I'm thrilled that this gentleman, even though I don't know much about him, is running against Laurie Smith. I think one of the worst things that she does is issue less than 1% of concealed carry permits. I mean, much less than 1% of the permits that come in there. And like he says, most of those that she does issue to are contributors. But what I want to know from this gentleman is why, when you take an oath to become sheriff, you take an oath to uphold the Constitution. Why isn't the Constitution a just cause sufficient for a law-abiding citizen to get a
That's a great question, and let's get to that, Frank. But we're going to get back with Kevin Jensen here. He's running for Santa Clara County Sheriff. We're going to talk to him again up next.
Hot Talk 560 KSFO.
Ethan Bearman joining you here on Hot Talk 560 KSFO. It's about 10 minutes before 5 p.m. We're going to get right back to it. I have Kevin Jensen. He's running for Santa Clara County Sheriff. Powerful. This is an important election. It looks like there's time for change down there in San Jose. It really does. Let's take a call real quick, and then we'll get back with Kevin Jensen. Andy in Mountain View, you're on the air with Ethan Bearman. What's your question? Hello, Andy in Mountain View.
Hey. I've got a question about police cameras, personal cameras and accountability. A lot of people think that this might be the future, and that instead of not just cameras on cars, but also personal cameras. Are you talking about for
the officers themselves, or are you talking about that I wear a camera?
No, for the officers themselves.
Okay, good.
Interacting with the public.
I like it. Thanks, Andy. Appreciate that. Mr. Jensen, so what do you think about, what is your attitude about the cameras with on officers and in the cars?
Well, there's a lot to it, but I'll try to narrow it down to the specifics. We've started with cameras that used to be in buildings and in our facilities, and then in our patrol areas and in our jails. And now we've got cameras that are mobile, so we've had them on the dashboards and in our vehicles. And what I think is they've really captured a lot of the evidence and information that we need later on. I think it's kept a lot of officers out of trouble. I think it's always a small part of behavior too, right? I mean, if something's watching, your behavior should be even better, but you should always have that regardless if somebody's watching. Now, as far as the lapel cameras and the hat cameras and the eyeglass cameras and those things that I've seen, I think it's important to know that when you're wearing those things, you're capturing the data and you're capturing the voice. And it does help in, believe it or not, internal affairs investigations, in evidence later on. Very few of those incidents have actually gone where the officer was criminally prosecuted or found to be at fault, although those have happened.
But it's more often defending the officer,
It absolutely does.
Yeah.
So I'm a fan. The hard part is evidentiary, keeping that stuff. As we get into technology and when we watch CSI and these other things, a lot of what's out there is fantastic, but keeping just the little bits that people may not know is how expensive it is to keep data and store all that data, not just for 30 days and write over it, but you've got to keep it for the life of a crime, for the court, for the appeal, and data storage gets expensive. People go out of business, and then all of a sudden you've got new vendors that are coming in. So yes, it's good, and yes, we want to work with it, and we will. The problems that people don't see is how you actually manage that from a fiscal standpoint and get all the good gadgets, but also pay for it. So I'm a fan. I'm a fan of, and the deputies are fans of doing it right, capturing this stuff so that people can see what we do, and that's what I'm calling for in more ways than that is transparency. Very little has to actually be kept private. That's victims' names, maybe personnel decisions, but I think we can share a lot more, and that's going to get us back in the public eye of trust rather than skepticism, I think.
All right, Kevin Jensen, candidate for Santa Clara County Sheriff. That election is just over 2 weeks away, and I know you've got to run, Kevin. So if somebody wants to learn more about your campaign and about where you stand on these issues, how would they go about doing that?
It's kevinjensenforsheriff.com, and I do want to thank you for having me on. The one thing that I'm hopeful about is that people start to look at it like I do. I teach ethics in the academy, and I don't want to be that politician that is all politics. I think it's more policing, less politics. You have to be politically savvy to get the resources and to help the public understand. But more than that, we have to get back to getting the public trust. And when you have that passion for that, when you keep that in the forefront rather than what my next job is or how long I can keep this job, I think that's what's important, and that's why I'm running, and that's why they believe in me. So thank you very much for having me on.
Kevin, thanks so much, and wish you the best of luck in the election.
Okay, the best to you, Ethan.
All right, thanks, Kevin. So that was Mr. Kevin Jensen. He's running for Santa Clara County Sheriff. And I'm going to tell you, Sheriff is exceedingly powerful. Remember, they can go into San Jose and they can enforce the law, whether the San Jose police even want them there or not. I'm actually not kidding you. That is the way our state is set up. It's very different from other states. If you moved here from elsewhere, and I did move here from elsewhere, sheriffs are ultimately powerful. We forget about it. It's a political position too often. It's cozy. The sitting sheriff, Lori Smith, by the way, we did reach out to her people. They never responded. So she was invited for an interview as well. But look, there's evidence of potential corruption based on Mercury News articles on how she issued CCW permits. I do not like that whatsoever. I'm a big believer in shall issue. I can't even believe how people want to argue against shall issue for conceal and carry. That's the Second Amendment. You go ahead and repeal the Second Amendment first, then we can talk about how you're going to revise that. So do you want a sheriff playing favorites? 808-5600, 415 area code. Send me a tweet at Ethan Bearman. We're talking about the Santa Clara County Sheriff's race. Incumbent Lori Smith, 16 years. She has a real competitor here in Kevin Jensen. By the way, Kevin Jensen has the endorsement of the Deputies Association. I'm not kidding you. The deputies themselves in Santa Clara want Kevin Jensen, and they don't want the sitting sheriff. That should tell you a whole lot. Let's talk to Connor in Mountain View. You're on the air with Ethan Bearman.
Hi, I was just, I actually wanted to talk to Jensen, but this works as well. With the Alden Smith case, in which Lori Smith basically provided him with special treatment throughout it, prolonging the investigation so he could still play, the assault weapons, the private helicopter rides, the shooting of assault weapons on her own range, and all that is just, it seems that the law was just overlooked for a period of time so that public eye was looked on her in favor.
Yeah, Connor, it's like out of a movie, isn't that? I mean, literally, I'm the sheriff. I can do whatever I want. Hey, I'm going to give you special treatment because for whatever reason, I've chosen to give you special treatment, but I'm not going to treat anybody else that way. It's like a bad Hollywood movie about Mississippi in the 1960s or something, but that was San Jose, right? I mean, Absolutely. Right now.
It's almost like pardon, I love archaeology, but Roman times is, the people won't care what's going on as long as there's games.
Yeah, right here. We'll give them the soma so they're pacified. Connor, thanks so much for the call. 808-5600, 415 area code if you're outside the Bay Area. We're talking about the Santa Clara County Sheriff's race. The election's just over 2 weeks away. I sincerely hope you all turn out and vote, and you think about for whom you are going to vote for sheriff. This is an incredibly important election. We just spoke with Kevin Jensen. Lori Smith's people did not respond for the interview request. But let's go to Aaron in Mountain View. You're on the air with Ethan Bearman.
Hi, am I on the air?
Yes. Hey, Aaron.
Fantastic. Okay, so a while back ago, we had an attack on the Metcalf substation.
Oh, yeah. That was a big deal. That was a terrorist attack.
Yeah. It actually got confirmed by the FBI that it was a terrorist attack. And Sheriff Smith completely disregarded it and considered it like vandalism.
Oh, my God.
Like, vandalism is something like graffiti. We're talking like people sniping at the station.
It was hundreds of rounds that were fired that destroyed 16 of those transformers. And don't forget, everybody's forgetting when we talk about the Metcalf substation, don't forget, somebody cut AT&T fiber down in Gilroy at the same time. This was a coordinated terror attack.
Absolutely. And so this is like, just like what Connor said earlier on the radio, just like, this is like saving face. This is political. This is absolute garbage.
So who are you going to vote for sheriff in 2 weeks?
Jensen all the way.
Jensen all the way.
Can I mention a real quick thing on CCW as well?
Yeah.
All right, absolutely. So I've seen a bunch of people coming out saying things like, "Oh, well, Jensen's not 100% shall issue." Well, guess what? If you're not going to vote, if you're not going to vote for Jensen, you're happy with the chains that are on you right now with Smith.
And giving a CCW to the CEO of Cisco. I'm a shareholder of Cisco, by the way. But she gives one to the CEO of John Chambers of Cisco and to a guy that lives in Russia, but not to her own citizens. Aaron, man. Yeah, exactly. Thanks so much for the call. Good to talk to you. We're talking about the Santa Clara County Sheriff's election. There's a real race on, and it's really important. There's a sitting sheriff, Laurie Smith, 16 years. Kevin Jensen, he had almost 28 years on the force. He's a teacher at the academy, and he has a lot of endorsements, and he's running against Laurie Smith. Let's talk to Valerie in Fremont. You're on the air with Ethan Bearman.
Hi there.
Hi, Valerie. What do you think about the sheriff's race down there?
Well, I think if you've been in power for 43 years and you were head of law enforcement for that long, you either become a politician or you become a sheriff. I think over the years, she's changed from the direction that she was supposedly supposed to go to. Kevin Jensen has been a captain for 28 years prior to him retiring. And what you see is what you get. Yeah,
he seemed very rational in my conversation with him here on the air. He seemed very, seriously, logical and rational. And that, hey, if you're in law enforcement, that's exactly what you should be, is rational and logical as opposed to partisan and political.
Well, you can't say, do as I say, not as I do.
Yeah, well, everybody does around here, don't they?
Well, that's why we need a change.
Exactly. Valerie, ding, 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 ding. Thank you for that, and appreciate your call, Valerie. So I want to encourage you all to think about, if you're down in the Santa Clara County, the election is just over 2 weeks away. This is an important one. Go out, vote.